Seems like I'm always doing projects around here, but I've got two projects that I must finish before the snow flies this fall, and that's only a couple months away. The first one, we bought this wood stove here a few months ago, and it's sitting where we're going to keep it, but there's no flue pipe. So one project is that I have to run the flue up through the ceiling and out the roof. And that's part of our prepper mentality, so that if the power goes out, we still have heat. And the other project is that I need to build a wood shed to keep the firewood out of the weather. And I'm going to do that right here against this wall.
Here we go.
Yes. Wow.
Hey everybody, I'm Bill with Live Simple, Live Free, and I'm going to build this wood shed. But first, I got a problem. See, I'm going to build a wood shed right here. It's just going to be basically racks that will hold the wood, and then I'm going to put a metal roof on top of it. It'll be underneath of that eave, but that eave only comes out about maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet. So I'm going to put a metal roof on top of the wood rack to keep the weather off of it. Now I want to go from the corner up to about here, but I got a problem. I've got this yard faucet right here. Now it's no longer working because it has leaks. I mean, it still works, but every time I turn it on, there's little pinholes all across here and on the other side, and when I turn it on, all the water sprays out of those little pinholes, especially if there's a hose on it. So a few months ago I stopped using that, and I actually installed this spigot, and you can see the video here where I install that if you want. So I still have this here, and it still works. If I pull it up, water will come out, but it sprays all over the place. And so it doesn't work anyway. But the other problem is I want to build a wood shed from there from the corner right up to this point here, so I can just clear the hose spigot there, which means this is in the way of the wood shed. So I'm going to have to remove it. So the way these yard faucets work, they have a valve that's way down underground so that it won't freeze. So the pipe comes in way down below the frost line to keep it from freezing. So I went into the crawl space looking for the pipe that goes to that yard faucet, and I couldn't find one. I searched all over the place, and there is no pipe on the inside that goes down under the ground or through the wall, except for the main supply line from the well. So I fretted about it for quite a while, and then I got an idea, and here's what I checked out. Now the well is all the way in the back right there behind my shed, and then the supply line from the well comes from there all the way underground, and then it comes into the house right here. And so what happened was I dug down here to discover what happened, but they actually tied this right into the main supply line that comes in. It runs this way, just under the dirt. You can't quite see it, but this actually ties right into the main well supply. Now that's unusual, because nowadays when you install the cold water pressure tank inside, you put a check valve in there that keeps the pressure from coming back this way and blowing down the well. So this wouldn't even work if you use the modern way to hook up a well. But apparently they have no check valve because this is on the well line. So that means I'm going to have to unscrew that down there and screw in a cap. And it was hard to dig down there to actually find that. And I'm worried about doing that. This is all galvanized, and I'm worried that when I twist this, it might break something there. And that would not be a good situation. If that happened, I would actually have to get Barry's backhoe in here and dig a bunch of stuff and replace a bunch of well line. I really don't want to do that. Now, when I do get that pipe out of there, I'll have a threaded fitting facing up, and I basically need to just screw in a plug, a 3/4 inch plug. But of course Lowe's didn't have any. They were out of them. Lowe's is out of an awful lot of stuff right now. So what I had to do was, I got this reducing bushing. It's got a 3/4 inch here, 3/8 inch there, and then I got a 3/8 inch plug that I'll just screw into it like that. Of course I'll put Teflon tape on it, tighten it down, but that'll give me the plug, the 3/4 inch plug that I need to be able to fill that hole, that fitting, once I get the spigot out of there. Now I got some of this PB Blaster penetrating oil that I've been spraying on that fitting down there for a couple of days. Every few hours I'd go and I put quite a few coats on there. Hopefully that'll loosen everything up a little bit. And I'm nervous about breaking that fitting down there. But here goes. Came right out. That fitting broke loose really easily. So I'm very happy with that. But it wasn't the fitting that I wanted to break loose. It was the one above it. So I wanted this bottom fitting right here, right there, to break loose, but instead this one did. As you can see, when I turn it, the bottom fitting doesn't loosen up, which means that instead of a 3/4 inch plug, I'm going to have to probably have a 1/2 inch cap. It's not going to be that big a deal, except that I don't have one, so I'm going to have to go to Lowe's to get one. Okay, so here's the problem. Since there's no backflow preventer in there like there should be, as soon as I took this off, now my entire cold water pressure tank in there is draining into this hole. So now I'm going to have a couple feet of water in here. I'm going to have to try to get that out somehow before I can put any kind of a fitting on there. I wonder how fast it'll actually just drain, or whether I'm going to have to bail it. So I'm going to wait a few minutes to see if that water just drains down into the ground by itself. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to bail it out. That's an unexpected thing, but I'm fortunate that this thing unscrewed very quickly without breaking any fittings. So anyway, while that's happening, let me show you how one of these things works if you've never seen it. This is a yard faucet, and typically they're put out, you know, outside someplace away from the house, near a garden or near a barn or something like that. And the thing is, you have to keep the water from freezing in here, so you run the supply line to it deep below the frost line, and then you hook it up down here. Now the ground level is usually somewhere, depending on what part of the country you live in. Here in Virginia, it was only that deep to be below frost line. In Pennsylvania, where I lived, it would have been way up here. But the valve to turn this off is actually inside of here, right in here. And when you open this up, this rod right here goes all the way down to the valve, which is in here, and it opens it up so the water can come up. When you close it, then it shuts off the valve here, way down below the frost line. But then you've still got water inside of the pipe here that could still freeze. So there is actually a hole right here, right there. Can you see that? And when you pull this up, it pulls the valve up to let the water in, and when that does, it actually closes off this hole so the water doesn't squirt out there. Now when you close the valve slides back down and shuts off the water supply, and it opens up this hole. And when you install one of these, you have to put gravel all down around the bottom so that when you shut off the valve and it opens this hole, all the water that's in this pipe here drains out this hole and into the gravel and then soaks away into the ground. That way, when you shut this off in the winter, the water stops here. The pipe here does not have water in it, and then it won't freeze. It's actually a pretty cool system. Of course, I would have just kept it, but this is an old one and it's cast iron, and it developed all these tiny little pinholes all along here. It was crazy. It just like sprayed everywhere when you opened it up. So that's how a yard faucet works. Okay, so here's the water in the hole, and it's draining pretty well. When it first filled up, it was all the way up to about here, and now it's all the way, most of the way down. I don't know if you can see it because of the glare, but the pipe that I'm going to be doing is right here. So I need to get that, looks like it's going to be a 1/2 inch cap rather than a 3/4 inch plug, and I don't have one. So I'm going to go out to Lowe's and get one. Hopefully they've got the right size. Hopefully by the time I get back, the water will be drained out, and I can just screw it on and cover it up. So it turns out that I needed a 3/4 inch cap, not a 1/2 inch cap. Sometimes when you're doing plumbing, it takes a lot of ingenuity to be able to put all the fittings together to make something work. Here's what I mean. Initially I had gotten this 3/4 inch. I needed a 3/4 inch plug and I didn't have one, so I showed you I used this bushing and then put in a 3/8 inch cap plug to be able to plug that off. So then I went to get the 3/4 inch cap that I needed, and they didn't have any of those either. They seem to be out of most 3/4 inch pieces. So what I did was I got this 3/4 inch bushing. It's 3/4 inches on both sides, so I can screw that down onto the pipe that's sticking up, and then I can take this 3/4 inch cap that I already had and screw it into the top like that, and that'll do the same thing. Sometimes, you know, there's one fitting that does the job, but if you don't have that, you can make it work by using 2 or 3 other fittings like this. So this is going to work. Alright, so now I've got the pipe stub cleaned up and I already have the Teflon wrapped around it. And here's my big elaborate cap that I'm going to screw on there. It's only just barely fits in this hole. In fact, it's still 1 inch too long, so I'll try my plumbing pliers instead. The plumbing wrench would be able to get this tighter than the pliers would, that's why I bought it. But the hole just is still too small. Alright, I think that's good. So now I have to turn the water on, make sure there's no leaks. Alright, so I went back inside and turned the power on for the well pump, and the system is back up to pressure and there are no leaks. That makes me happy. Well, there we go. Yard faucet, gone. And I'm so glad, because now not only do I have room here to actually build my wood shed the way I want to, but since that wasn't actually working anyway, I'm glad to just get it out of here. So now I can start on my wood shed. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I still have two main projects to do before winter. I got to build this wood shed that I'm working on, and I got to do the chimney flue for the fireplace up through the roof. I decided to start on the wood shed first because though it's still early September, it's getting toward fall, it's still 120 degrees up there in the attic every day. So I decided to go ahead and do the wood shed first. And you know, a lot of people talk about how industrious I am and I'm always working, but what you don't see is all of the downtime. I'll work for an hour or two or three at the most in a day and take a lot of breaks in between. So this wood shed is probably going to take me at least a week to finish. And by then, hopefully, you know, I'll get a little bit later into September, or maybe I'll even wait until early October to do the wood shed, or I mean the wood stove flue pipe, till it's a little cooler up there, so up in the attic. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Live simple, live free, you be blessed. We'll see you next time. Well, there we go. Yard faucet. Gone.